You're probably thinking the new P365 AXG Legion is just another version of the macro comp, and it kind of is. But what you weren't expecting is for it to shoot so much better, especially when compared to the old macro. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David, and I recently called the child abuse hotline only to have a child answer the phone, call me stupid, and hang up on me. So this is the Sig Sauer P365 AXG Legion, which is the latest offering with an aluminum grip, removable G10 grips to the macro comp lineup. We're gonna hit more on that in a bit, but first, I need to shout out my channel sponsors. First and foremost, a thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. My Patreon supporters are ardent supporters of the Catalina wine mixer. And a big thanks to Global Ordnance and their Igman ammunition, which was used in filming this video and performed admirably. And of course, a quick disclaimer, this is a sample gun that was provided for video by Sig Sauer. That all said, it's not going to save them from getting made fun of and me making fun of myself with bad jokes, so be ready for that. So I'm just gonna lay it out on the table for you because I was not ready for this gun to be as good as it is. And the typical way that Sig Sauer releases a product is they release, Thing, and then they reskin Thing like 50 times, and each time they reskin it, it's a big deal. I was fully prepared for this gun to be a reskin, but because the frame is aluminum and it's about 4 ounces heavier than the P365 macro comp, it made a significant difference in how the gun shoots. So for those who are unfamiliar with what the slide comp or slide integrated expansion chamber does, is there basically is a long slide with a little short barrel like this. The bullet ignites in the chamber and is pushed through the barrel with hot gas. Once the bullet exits the barrel, the gas expands, and because of these baffles that are on the front of the slide, gas is redirected up, and that helps reduce the amount of energy of the slide going backward, which is a lot of words to say. It recoils less. So you're probably like, hey, he's going pretty hard on this, and yeah, I am. I recently reviewed the Langdon Tactical Beretta PX4, and I proclaimed it to be one of the best concealed carry guns possibly ever. This gun came out, and I can say that I'm gonna have to get out there and do a comparison video. I'll probably throw in the Bull SAS2 Ultralight as well, and just do kind of a three-way showdown between these, because I think all three of these do represent some of the better guns in the concealed carry marketplace. Problem is that they're all very expensive, but if you subscribe to the channel, you can see when that video drops, probably in a month or so. But this is one of the best shooting guns, despite it's very skinny. I mean, it is Glock 19 sized approximately, but it is skinnier and it is pretty light at just about 24 ounces. So I said it with the other 365X macro that it shoots like a bigger gun. This one takes it to a new level. In fact, here's the slow motion between the 365 AXG Legion and the P320 AXG Legion. The 365 macro AXG Legion in my hands recoils more predictably and less than the Legion. And I think part of the reason why that is the slide on this little guy only weighs about 10.5 or so ounces. So the original X macro grip module is just, 5.5 or so ounces. So you're adding 4 ounces onto that. So at that point, like, the non-moving weight is starting to equal the moving weight in the pistol, and how it behaves in recoil is wildly different. In hand, it was very appreciable how tame this gun was to shoot. Compared to even the macro, which is a very gentle shooting gun, it felt violent in comparison. And where it got really silly is when I shot it with the Foxtrot 2R weapon mounted light on the gun, because it adds another, few ounces to the frame of the gun. The gun just doesn't move at that point. Like, it becomes very, very easy to shoot. So let's dive deeper and look at kind of the features that come sort of with the gun, because this is a $1,200 pistol is what it's eventually going to sell at. And guys, you know how it goes. Sig releases new product, they've got the price that they want it to be, but initially everybody buys all of them and they cost a few $100s more in premium, and then the price comes back down. Eventually these things will sell for about $11.99. And $11.99 is about $400 more than the regular macro comp. And so where does that get us? What does that provide? So first and foremost is the aluminum grip module that it comes with. If you follow the channel, you'll know I'm a big fan of the P320 AXG frames. I think the ergonomics are just absolutely special. And the ergonomics on this are improved a little bit as well. Specifically, this deeper cut under the trigger guard helps kind of get the gun a little bit lower in your hand and gives a little bit better leverage than the polymer frame. The beaver tail is sculpted just a little bit, But realistically, the AXG frame is providing this nice bit of checkering on the front and back strap, and even up under the trigger guard, which is actually something I kind of liked, because when you build a good grip on the pistol, it kind of bites you back right there, so you get really locked in on the frame. So the AXG frame is what you're largely paying for, and that does lead us to kind of my biggest negative with this pistol. I'll put it at the end of the video. It's not huge, but it's worth talking about. The grips that come on it are G10, which means that sooner or later we'll have aftermarket options. These are G10, which, you know, naturally has kind of a grippier feeling than polymer or aluminum, but it's kind of a medium texture. I'm actually surprised at how grippy the grips that from the box are, and they're, you know, reasonably good looking with the Legion chevrons. The grip is dressed up at the bottom with a magwell, and the magazines that are provided have aluminum base pads. So if you just break it down on value using P320 economics, AXG grip module is about $380. If you were to buy a magwell, that's usually about a $50 part, and the aluminum base pads would generally be, you know, 20 to 30 bucks a piece. And all that's before you even realize that this is a Legion. And if you register at Sig Sauer, they'll give you one of these Legion gun bags and a challenge coin, because somewhere out there is a guy who drives Toyota Tacoma. Every day before he leaves the house, he looks at all his challenge coins and picks one and puts it in his pocket. That guy just got really excited about a new challenge coin possibility. But the gun rug is a really nice thing to be able to transfer your gun to and from the range, and that's on top of the crappy plastic clamshell case that all the guns ship in. The other like big differentiating feature between the regular P365 macro comp is that the slide release right there is extended. It actually is much nicer to get onto, so it makes the gun actually handle, like gun handling wise, between the magwell and this extended catch, like a bigger gun. You'd be asking, is this trigger wildly different? So on this example, yes, it is, but I asked Sig Sauer about it, and they said that no, nothing's different about the trigger. So the trigger on this gun is actually a good bit better than all of my other P365s, which have pretty mushy triggers generally, but this has like an almost firm wall, and then a, you know, a little bit of grit, and then a release, a good bit of over travel like the 320 and 365s like to have. But the trigger is actually not bad at all. And to that point, when I was actually sitting back and shooting the gun, like I was able to put out this 15 round group on a head box at 15 yards. Not too shabby work there, but when I first got started and I was setting up for filming, I was getting this dot zeroed. I took it back to 25 yards to validate zero, and well, this is what happened.
25 yards, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a flyer high 5. So it's accurate.
So despite this little 3.1 inch barrel that when you lock it to the rear, you know, it becomes self-conscious and assures you it's a good size, it's able to put up pretty good groups with range ammo, which is always a concern because shorter barrels don't stabilize cheap ammunition quite as nicely, but this didn't have any problems with that. In fact, it was very, very accurate. So finishing up on the slide is exactly the same as the old macro comp. It has obviously the slide compensator. It has the Sig X-ray night sight. So if you're somebody who hasn't figured out that red dots are just generally a better sighting solution yet and insists that you can shoot just as well with them, you can't. Then those are okay night sights. But more importantly, it has the RMSC footprint cut, which it is wearing the very awesome Sig Electro Optics Romeo X, which is a very robust little electronic sight, and you can check out my video on those. I'm a big fan of these sights. They've got like super low deck height so that the standard height iron sights will co-witness through the optic, and I think that's awesome. Other than that, the big difference on the slide is that it has the, you know, gray-green Cerakote of the Legion. It is a nice feeling gun in hand. It just feels super duper solid. It is really squared away. The aluminum frame and the G10 grips, it gives it a artisan, like, even though it's still a production gun and it's being assembled in the same way all the other P365s are being assembled, it just feels like a higher end gun because of the aluminum grip. I don't know what it is about metal guns feeling like they have more of a soul, but it still is true even in the production gun vein. So that's going to bring us to really the single biggest negative behind cost. The biggest negative for this is, just like the P320 AXG frames, is that some Kydex holsters will not fit this. I have 4 P365 macro holsters, and 2 of them will work for this. And the reason for that is that the frame at the bottom, from kind of right there to the bottom of the pick rail, is just a little bit taller. So the hack that you normally do of I'll put a weapon mounted light on it and I'll be able to use that weapon mounted light holster, actually it works the worst in that holster. The Tenacor holster that I have for it did not fit. The Harry's holster prototype was a very tight fit, but still works well, and that's what I've been using, as well as the Vetter holster. It kind of works as well. So at least initially, this amazing concealed carry gun is gonna have a hard time finding holster support. I know that it's going to get solved, and eventually there's going to be plenty of options available, but right at launch it's going to be a bit of touch and go to figure out whether the holsters are going to work. You may have to get your holsters with the heat gun to make the thing fit. So the AXG Legion is expensive, but it is pretty awesome. So sound off in the comments. Would you spend this much money on a carry gun? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.